What's going on, everybody? Kalipus Tech here, coming back at you with another video. In this video, we're going to be comparing the Samsung Galaxy A13 to the Samsung Galaxy A32 5G. So let's get started. So with the Samsung Galaxy A13, we're getting a 6.6-inch PLS LCD display with a resolution of 1080p, a PPI of 400, an aspect ratio of 20:9, and an 83.2% screen-to-body ratio. With the Samsung Galaxy A32 5G, we're getting a 6.5-inch TFT display with a resolution of 720p, a PPI of 270, an aspect ratio of 20:9, and a screen-to-body ratio of about 81.6%. So for what they are, both phones do have pretty good displays, but I would say overall, the Samsung Galaxy A13 is a little bit better. It has a 1080p resolution, so the image is going to be a little bit sharper and more crisp, whereas with the Samsung Galaxy A32, again, we're only getting 720p, so it is a little bit limited in that regard. The Samsung Galaxy A13 is also bigger, albeit only by 1/10 of an inch, but it still does make a slightly visible difference. The viewing angles are almost the same, but you can see a little bit more with the Samsung Galaxy A13. And overall, the A13 does have better brightness and just better looking colors in general. So if you're consuming lots of content, whether you're streaming videos, looking at photos, even just reading, you're going to get a little bit better of an experience with the Samsung Galaxy A13 than you will with the Samsung Galaxy A32 5G. Now for storage, with the A13, we're getting 64GB of internal storage with microSD card expansion, and with the A32 5G, we're getting 128 with microSD card expansion as well. But keep in mind, this specific phone in my hand is the international variant, and if you get the US variant through pretty much any carrier, you're probably just going to get 64, so definitely keep this in mind. But the fact still remains, if you do want more storage, you can always just get the international version on eBay. It's really not that hard to get, whereas with the Samsung Galaxy A13, as far as I know, there's no variant that has 128GB, so you're really going to be stuck with 64. But that being said, 64GB is really not bad, and for the average user, you're probably going to be perfectly fine. But if you are a power user, if you have like 50GB worth of apps or something like that, then you might want to get the A32 5G with 128GB. But again, for the average user, with the 64GB you get with the Samsung Galaxy A13, you're probably going to be perfectly fine, especially since this phone does have microSD card expansion. Now there's no wireless charging with either of these phones, no real surprise there, but both of them do have fingerprint scanners right here on the power keys. Definitely a nice spot for them, since usually you're going to be pressing the power key to wake up the display anyway. Might as well unlock them at the same time, so real convenient there. And both phones also have face unlock, so we're getting two different options to get into them. But starting with the A13, let's go ahead and give these fingerprint scanners a try and see how well they work. There we go, one more time. And there we go, real fast and responsive, no issues here. Moving on to the A32 5G. So as you can see, it's not unlocking with the display off, but once I press the button, there we go, real fast and responsive there. One more time. Again, it's not going to work unless you have the display on, but once you turn it on, it works just fine. So as you can see, both fingerprint scanners were real fast and responsive, no real issues. The A32 5G works a little bit differently, just in that you actually have to have the display on for it to unlock, but it's not really a big deal, at least I don't think it is, but all the same, still something to keep in mind. And also don't forget, both phones do have face unlock, so if you'd rather use that to get into your phone, you always can. Now for the camera setups here, with the Samsung Galaxy A13, we got a water drop notch for the front facing camera, and this camera is 8 megapixels. Then on the back, we got a quad camera setup with a 50 megapixel main camera, a 5 megapixel ultra wide camera, a 2 megapixel macro camera, and a 2 megapixel depth sensing camera. So pretty much everything as far as features go. With the A32 5G, we have a really similar setup with another water drop notch for the front facing camera, but this camera is 13 megapixels instead of 8. Then on the back, we got another quad camera setup. The backs actually look almost identical for that matter. And with the A32 5G, we got a 48 megapixel main camera, an 8 megapixel ultra wide camera, a 5 megapixel macro camera, and a 2 megapixel depth sensing camera. So as far as features go, again, these phones have pretty much the same camera setup, but I would say in terms of quality, the Samsung Galaxy A32 5G is going to be a slight step up, maybe not an insanely huge difference, but it is a difference all the same. So if you want to take the best photos between the two, then I would definitely go with the A32 5G, but if you're a more casual camera user and you're not super concerned with quality as long as it's good enough for something like social media, then the Samsung Galaxy A13 is going to be perfectly fine. Now for video, it's kind of a different story. The Samsung Galaxy A13 is not very impressive, and it can only shoot videos in up to 1080p in both the rear and front cameras, whereas with the Samsung Galaxy A32 5G, we can shoot 4K videos at 30 frames per second in the rear camera and 1080p in the front. And I will say, with the Samsung Galaxy A32 5G, the video quality is actually decently impressive, maybe not quite as good as something like an A53 5G or an S21 FE or anything like that, but if you do want to take the occasional nice video here and there that you're actually going to keep for something, then the A32 5G is definitely going to get the job done, whereas with the A13, I probably would not use the video function on this phone for anything beyond Snapchat. Now internally with the Samsung Galaxy A13, we're getting 4GB of RAM with the Samsung Exynos 850 processor. With the Samsung Galaxy A32 5G, we're getting 8GB of RAM with the MediaTek Dimensity 720 5G processor. Now keep in mind, the 8GB of RAM is really just due to this phone in my hand being the international version, but if you do get the US version of this phone through a carrier, you are going to get 6GB of RAM instead. Now does that really make a huge difference? No, not really. You're probably not even going to notice it, but all the same, it is something to keep in mind. Now that being said, I did run Geekbench 5 benchmark tests on both of these phones, and with the Samsung Galaxy A13, we're getting a single core score of 157 and a multi-core score of 588. With the Samsung Galaxy A32 5G, we're getting a single core score of 504 and a multi-core score of 1670. Now, if you're just lightly using your phone, not really doing a whole lot besides maybe some occasional web browsing and social media use, and streaming the odd video here and there, but other than that, just sending text messages, making calls, then the Samsung Galaxy A13 is probably going to be okay. But if you're going to be doing any higher end activities like mobile gaming, or if you're just going to be on your phone a lot, then the Samsung Galaxy A32 5G is definitely going to have a huge advantage here. Another thing to keep in mind is that the A32 5G does have 5G connectivity, whereas the A13 doesn't. Now keep in mind, there is a Samsung Galaxy A13 5G, but this is not it. This is a completely different phone. The A13 5G, for whatever reason, was released in December of 2021, whereas this A13 in my hand, the 4G variant, was released really recently in March of 2022, and I only just got this phone a couple weeks ago. Now if you do want to learn about the Samsung Galaxy A13 5G, I do have a ton of videos about that phone on the channel, but again, this specific A13 is not a 5G phone, so between the two, the Samsung Galaxy A32 5G is the only one that actually has 5G connectivity. But that being said, in pretty much every way, the Samsung Galaxy A32 is a better device when it comes to processing power, so if you do want the faster phone of the two, the A32 5G without a doubt is going to be the way to go. Now these phones have pretty much the same battery with 5000 mAh batteries, so you're going to get a ton of battery life, which is a great thing if you're not always around a charger. And then down the road for longevity, these batteries are going to last for quite a while, because since you're already starting out with probably multiple days worth of battery life, as the batteries degrade, which all batteries do, it's not really going to affect you nearly as quickly as it would with, say, an iPhone SE battery that's about half this size. In addition to having large batteries, these phones also support 15-watt fast charging. Not the best fast charging in the world, but it will get the job done, and I will tell you, both of these phones do charge up really fast, which is a great thing if you want to save some time. In addition to this, both phones have NFC, so if you do want to use contactless mobile payment services like Google Pay or Samsung Pay or any of those tap and pay features, then you'll be happy to know that you can with either of these phones. Now just so you know, I have heard things about versions of the Samsung Galaxy A32 5G not having NFC. This specific one in my hand I did get on eBay does, but the Samsung Galaxy A32 5G in particular has an annoyingly large number of different variants. I don't know why they do this, they should just keep it consistent, but I guess certain variants of this phone don't have NFC, so if that feature is really important to you, definitely check with the seller before you actually get the phone. But again, this specific version of the phone does have NFC, and with the A13, every version of this phone I know of does as well. But in conclusion, which of these phones is better? In pretty much every way, I would say the Samsung Galaxy A32 5G is the better device. Sure, it might not have a better display. That's one area where in every aspect the Samsung Galaxy A13 does have an advantage, but the A32 5G does have more storage, in fact double the storage. It also has a slightly better quality camera that can shoot 4K videos. There's also 5G connectivity and a much more powerful processor, and that's really the point where it's going to be a deal breaker for most people, because I feel like unless you're really lightly using your phone and you're not really going on the internet or even social media a whole lot, the Samsung Galaxy A13 is just not going to be fast enough. Whereas with the A32 5G, we're not only getting much more power, but we're also getting 5G connectivity, which is a great bonus in this day and age. So in general, if you're really going to be on your phone a lot, despite the A13 having a significantly better display, I do think the Samsung Galaxy A32 5G is going to be the better option for most people. But again, if you're really just lightly using your phone and mostly just streaming videos on YouTube or something that doesn't really take a whole lot of processing power, then the Samsung Galaxy A13 is probably going to be fine for you. But this concludes my comparison between the Samsung Galaxy A13 and the Samsung Galaxy A32 5G. If you want to learn more about either of these phones individually, be sure to check out my full reviews of them and tips and tricks videos on the channel. But I hope you enjoyed this comparison, and I hope you found the information useful as well. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. But as always, I will see you in the next video.